You know that term value proposition? It gets thrown around all the time. But what if I told you that the way most of us think about it is, well, just plain wrong? And what if that mistake is actually costing you deals? We're going to spend the next few minutes totally reframing this idea, turning it from a buzzword into your absolute best tool for winning.
Okay, let's start with a little thought experiment. I want you to picture this. You've worked for weeks, maybe months. You've built an amazing relationship. You've gotten that verbal yes. But the real decision, the final sign-off, it's going to happen in a boardroom meeting, and you're not invited. Your champion, your person on the inside, has to make your case for you. Everything, and I mean everything, comes down to this one moment.
And that right there, that's the final hurdle. The entire deal now rests on how well your buyer can explain your value when you're not in the room to back them up. So the real question you got to ask yourself is, have you actually armed them to win that argument? Is the case you gave them clear enough, compelling enough, and persuasive enough to get that signature? All of this leads to a pretty fundamental question. We all think we know what a value proposition is, don't we? But what if the definition most of us have in our heads is the very thing holding us back? Yeah, it's really time to rethink this whole concept. Because a powerful value proposition is so much more than just a slick pitch or some clever tagline you've memorized. So here's the core misunderstanding, the big myth versus the reality. The myth is that it's an elevator pitch, right? Just some canned, prepackaged statement that you recite. But the reality is way more powerful. It's the entire collection of reasons that actually forms inside your buyer's mind, the things that convince them that you are the right choice. It's their argument, not your speech. So here's the definition we really need to be using. A value proposition is simply the collection of reasons why a buyer buys. That's it. It's the sum of all the little things and big things, all the factors that affect whether they're going to purchase at all and who they're going to purchase from. Okay, so if that's what it is, how do we actually build this collection of reasons in our buyer's head? Well, the best way to think about it is with a super simple but really powerful analogy, a three-legged stool. For your value case to be stable and stand on its own, it has to have all three legs. Leg number one is resonate. This is all about connecting to what the buyer truly needs and cares about. It's not about what you want to sell. It's about solving a problem that for them is important, maybe even urgent. When you get this right, the buyer starts thinking, I need it. Now for the second leg, differentiate. Look, the buyer always has options, always. So why should they choose you over a competitor or over just doing nothing at all? Differentiation makes it crystal clear that you're their best choice. This is what gets the buyer thinking, this is the best option. And the absolutely crucial third leg is substantiate. This is the prove it part. It's all about proof, about backing up your claims and building real trust. Can you actually deliver what you're promising? Substantiation is what lowers their sense of risk and makes them say, okay, I believe you. So you've got resonate, differentiate, and substantiate. You need all three. So what do you think happens when one of those legs is weak or just missing entirely? You guessed it, the whole structure just collapses. Just take a second and think about it. What does it actually feel like in a sales call when your message just isn't landing? Or when you sound exactly like the competition? Or you can just feel that the buyer is skeptical? Each one of these failures has a totally predictable and pretty painful outcome. Let's break this down because it's so clear when you see it laid out. At the top, when you have strong resonance, clear differentiation, and solid substantiation, boom, you've got the foundation for a win. But look what happens when you take one away. If your resonance is weak, their reaction is, I don't need this. If your differentiation is weak, you're just another commodity, and they'll ask, so what's your best price? And if you can't substantiate, if you can't prove it, they'll just say, you know what, I can't risk it. See, it's totally predictable. And this is literally the sound of failure. I don't need it, the conversation just dies. What's your best price? Now you're in a race to the bottom. I can't risk it. The deal is dead because you couldn't build trust. These are the phrases that every single one of us wants to avoid. Okay, so how do we avoid that? How do we proactively build a solid three-legged stool for every single buyer every single time? Let's get practical now and move from the theory to the actual tools you can use. It all starts with a really simple exercise you have to do internally. Before you can ever convince a buyer, you have to be able to make the case powerfully to yourself. And the way you do that is by answering 4 absolutely essential questions. And what's so cool is that these 4 questions map directly to the 3 legs of our stool. Asking why act and why now, that's how you build resonance. You create that importance and urgency. Why us? I mean, that's the absolute core of your differentiation. And why trust? Well, that's how you build substantiation. If you can answer these 4 questions clearly and powerfully, you have a rock-solid foundation for your value case. So once you've built the case for yourself, you need the tools to communicate it. And let me say it again, this is not about a single speech. It's about having 6 key building blocks ready to go in any conversation. Think of these as your conversational nuggets. You have to know who you're talking to, the exact problem you solve for them, the real impact of solving that problem, what your offerings actually are, the proof that it works, and what makes you genuinely different. But you don't just recite this list. You weave these little nuggets into the natural flow of the conversation, building your value case piece by piece together. And this brings us right back to the single most important takeaway from all of this. A value proposition is not a static statement you deliver. It's a dynamic case that you build piece by piece with your buyer. If you only see it as a pitch, you are fundamentally limiting your own ability to connect and persuade. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Ask yourself, are you preparing a monologue that you plan to recite? Or are you co-creating the winning script for your buyer's victory speech, the one they're going to deliver with passion and confidence when you're not in the room? The answer to that question will define your success.